Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Warlords of Draenor raiding guide. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the flexible, which is normal mode and heroic mode difficulties of the Butcher in the Highmaul raids. Now, as this is flexible mode, there is no set raid composition that you want to bring, but on heroic mode, the DPS check is quite tight, so you might want to make sure you're bringing your stronger DPS players and maybe drop a few healers in order to make up for the enrage timer that you're going to have to face. So jumping straight into this guide, first of all we're going to take a look at how you're going to be tanking the Butcher. And this is a relatively easy task to do, as all your tanks are going to have to do is stand on top of each other for pretty much the majority of this fight. Now the main ability you're going to have to be aware of is called Heavy Handed, and this is going to cause the Butcher to hit his current target and then hit the next closest target. Now this is where the tank stacking up is vital, because you need to be the closest targets to the boss, otherwise he's going to do a 180 and hit the closest melee player that's there. And you don't want that, because the damage is going to instantly kill whoever it does hit. Now tanks are also going to have to deal with an ability called the Cleaver and the Tenderizer. Now these are stacking debuffs that are going to be applied onto your tank, so you simply need to make sure that you are swapping when you're on 3 stacks of the bleed effect from the Cleaver. Now at the same time, this also means you will have a few stacks of the Tenderizer, so you do need to make sure that you are looking to use personal cooldowns, or your healers are looking to use raid cooldowns on you if need be. Ultimately, the number of stacks is going to depend on what cooldowns are available and what gear you do have, but we do recommend that you use 3 as a baseline. Now finally, tanks should be aware that if they are the Butcher's current target and they try to run out of range of the boss for whatever reason, then he's going to simply cast an ability called Meat Hook, which will pull you back to him. So that's the tanking covered. Next up, we're going to look at the main kind of focus of this fight, and this is an ability called Cleave. Now what this is going to do is it will cause the Butcher to target the largest group of players and strike them for physical damage, as well as also placing a debuff on them called Gushing Wounds, which is a stacking debuff, and it will cause players to bleed for physical damage for 15 seconds. You also need to know that if players happen to reach 5 stacks of Gushing Wounds and they take another strike of Cleave, they're going to die instantly. Now, in order to deal with this, what you're going to want to do is have the tanks face the Butcher away from wherever your raid is, and then set 2 stacking points on either side of the Butcher, and you're going to want to split your raid group into 2 teams. Now, you're going to have each team on each side of the boss, and what you want to ideally do in order to optimize DPS is get 1 person or 2 people from each team in order to be the people that move in and out of the groups, in order to make the groups bigger or smaller, in order to trigger where the cleave attack is going to go. Now, the first group should stack up at the start of the fight, as they're going to need to start taking the cleave almost instantly, and then the player that's designated will want to move out, and then the second group should stack up and the designated player should move in once the first group has received 3 to 4 attacks of the cleave ability and they've got 3 to 4 debuffs of Gushing Wounds on them. Now, the players that move out do need to make sure they're moving a suitable distance, because they don't want to trigger being the biggest group, as it will cause complications. Once the second group has reached 3 stacks or 4 stacks of Gushing Wounds, depending on how you decide to do it, the debuffs on the first group should have then dropped, so the allocated player in group 2 will want to move out, and then the allocated player in group 1 will want to move back in. Other than that, it's simply rinse and repeat, and you should be able to optimize your DPS by having minimal movement from players. Now, as well as the cleave ability, the Butcher also has an ability called Bounding Cleave, and what you'll notice is that he has an energy bar, and this ability will be triggered when he reaches 100 energy. This will then cause him to start the Bounding Cleave sequence, which will cause him to knock all players back, and then after a few seconds he will charge to the largest clump of players and deal his cleave ability. Now, in order to deal with this, there's kind of 2 options. The first option is to have a dedicated group of people that are going to stay stacked up at a certain point in order to trigger the charge and the cleave ability, or you set a central stacking marker and say anyone who doesn't have the gushing wounds debuff when bounding cleave starts moves to this marker and stacks up in order to take the cleave. It's entirely up to your raid what you kind of want to do there, but you do have two options to work with. Now, while you're dealing with that, once the Butcher has reached 30% remaining health, he will then go into a frenzy, which is going to cause him to deal 10% more damage and attack 30% faster, which means cleaves are going to come faster, tank debuffs are going to come faster, and everything is just in general going to hurt you a lot more. Now, we recommend that you save your Time Warp, your Bloodlusts, your Heroisms, and your second potions if you're using them for the 30% remaining point, as this is when you're going to want to burn him down as fast as you can. The rest of the abilities are still going to be in effect. You're still going to have to deal with cleave, still going to have to deal with tank debuffs and tank abilities, so just make sure that you're dealing with the fight as you did before, but hitting the boss a lot harder. So that's going to do it for this guide on the Butcher on flexible difficulty. If you are interested in future Warlords of Draenor raiding guides, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to view a written version of this guide, then please do head on over to flaskup.com or click on the link that's in the video description below. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.